Cool. Alright guys, so we're going to make a video here, and this is going to be going over 3.1 rocker arm, and this would be the drawing. Keep in mind, all your drawings must be centered, just like in the previous unit. So a lot of these units, or a lot of these drawings, you can figure the measurements on centering them, except for one of them, and that's this one, because in order to figure out the centering on this, you would need to know calculus, which we won't go over, and instead we'll draw it on green paper and then transfer it over. Keep in mind, if you want to draw these all on green paper, you can go ahead and do so, but it's just going to waste your time versus just manually looking at them and centering them. Another cool part is we are doing a new thing where once you pass Unit 2, then I have printed borders that you will just simply take and write in and then begin drawing, rather than you remaking the border every single time. Alright, so with that being said, let's go ahead and begin. I'm going to zoom in here so you guys can actually see what I am talking about here. So, just like in all our other drawings, we need to know a couple things in order to center something. How big and how long this object is. So, real quick, we know that 5.62 is from the center of this circle is to the center of this circle. And I know the radius of this circle, which is going to be 0.075 or 0.75, and I know this circle outside tangent is 0.75 also, which means right before, just like our worksheet, it's starting to curve back, and it's going to make a full circle like this. So it is 0.75 from here to there, as it is from here to there. So what can I simply do? Well, I can just add the math. I can go 5.62 plus 0.75 for this and 0.75 for that. And then this number is going to give me my total length, the length of my object. So real quick, here we go. We're going to go 5.62 plus 0.75 plus 0.75. Enter. My length is 7.12. Okay, that's the length here. Real quick, we're going to figure out the measurements, the height of this object. So I know, what did he say? Okay, alright, real quick. Back on subject here. Alright. So from the center of this circle to the center of that circle, I know it's 1.75. Just like this one, from there to there, it's the same from here to here. It's 0.75 down to here. Now the next question is well, what is the height here? Well, if you were to simply look at this object would do this. Curve all the way back. Meaning that this is a tangent line off of this arc and that arc. So I know the center from here to outside here because it circles back around this way. Right? It's 0.75 because it tells it to me right here. So simply I can do my math again. I can go center to center is 1.75 plus the radius of 1.75 plus the other additional radius is 0.75. So let's go ahead and add those up. 1.75 plus 1.75 plus 0.75 is 4.25. Now I know my height, and now I know my length. So what can I do with that? Well, now I can draw a box and center it. So I'll zoom out. Figure out a good spot here. There she blows. Alright. Yeah, keep laughing, Kendall. I have an amazing voice. I put babies to sleep with this voice. Okay, here we go. I know my length and I know my height. So my length would fit here, so I'm just going to simply measure this. Okay. And it looks like I am 10.5. So I'm going to simply do some math, right? 10.5 minus the 7.12. So let's do the math here. 10.5 minus the 7.12 equals 3.38. Then I divide that 2 because there's going to be 2 equal spaces on each side of this. So divide that by 2. .69. So my answer is 1.69. Well, the next question is how do I find that on a decimal scale? Let's go back to our conversion chart. So I know what 1 is, but I'm looking for the second decimal of 0.69. So this is half. Here's 0.69, which equivalents to 11/16. So we're going to use the 11/16 scale, or 11/16 mark, to come in, and I'm going to come in 1 and 11/16. So there's 8, 10, 11/16. Now I'm going to grab my divider. Okay. 8, 10, 11/16. Boom. And then I'm just going to go ahead and go over 7.12. And I'm going to look at the 7.12. So 0.12, 2 decimal places, equals out to 1/8 of an inch. It's horrible. You guys can't quite see that very well. There you go. So 0.12, which is the length of my object, right? The length, we figured that out. So I'm just going to go over 7 and 1/8 over from that dot. 7 and 1/8. Bingo bango. And then this measurement would be 1 and 11/16. And look at that, it is. Okay, so those two lines right there represent my vertical lines. Remember, you're very light right now. You do not want to be dark because it's hard to erase, and the lighter you are, the less you have to erase because you can use your erasing pad. Okay, so now I have my length. Now I'm going to really quick find my height. My height is 4.25, so my first task is to measure this. And it looks like it is 7 5/8. So 7 5/8 is 0.6. 5/8 in a decimal form is 0.625. I'm going to ahead and go and subtract that from my 4.25. So subtract 4.25. That's my remaining amount. I got to divide that by 2 because there's 2 equal spaces. So I got to come down 1, and let's grab the fraction or the conversion chart. So I got 4 decimals. 0.6875. 0.8675 or 6875. That's going to be 11/16. So now I've got to come down 1 and 11/16 also. So here we go. Let's move everything out of the way. Grab my divider. 11/16. There's 8, there's 10, there's 11/16. Now from that point I'm just going to come 4.25 because I already know my length. So there's 3 inches. That's 3 inches, and I'm just going to go ahead and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 5. Bingo bango. There's my 2 lines. This right here represents my shape overall. Now, real quick, we went over this in the previous units, but you're allowed 1 mess up for center per unit. And the one that a person would want to mess up on would be 3.6, the form roller lever. Because all these other ones are easy, you can just figure the math for it. That's the last one where you can't figure the math and you got to do it on green paper, right? Because it's calculus in order to figure all this stuff out. A lot of people make the mistake on this very first one because they think that's the center. Notice that's not the center. I've now got to figure out where this dot is, this center is, okay? So there's a couple things how I can do this. I can come down 0.75 or 1.75 from the top down to find a horizontal center line. Then I can come over or come over from this way, from these vertical lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come from here because it's an easy number, 3. But I can't come 3 from this line because this guideline right here is represented by this guideline right there. It's the outside of this object. So I've got to come 3 plus 0.75 over, and then I'm going to have a vertical guideline or vertical center line. So here we go. I'm going to come over 3.75, 3.75. Then we're going to draw that light guideline, because everything's light right now. We don't want to be dark with anything. And now on this line, I need to come down 1.75 because that's the tangent radius of this. So 1.75, there's my center. Right there represents the center of this big arc. So there's the center. Now, if I go back to this drawing here, I know the center. Now I need to find that center. So what am I going to do? Well, there's a couple things. I can come from this line down 1.75, or I can come up 0.75 and over 0.75 to find the center. That's an easier fraction for me to figure. That way I can lay it right on my t-square. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. .75, and then I'm going to come up 0.75. Remember, I'm just dotting, right? And now where these two intersect is going to be the center for that other circle. Remember, everything's very, very light, because it's going to be really easy to erase this all when I do it with my dry eraser pad. So I got a center, I got a center. Notice that center is not the center between these two. This is the center of the object right here. See how people can mess up the very first time when they do this? So this is the center of this object, but it's not the center for that circle. See that? See that transition there? And that's really hard to see. I should maybe oh man, how do I say that? I should probably be a little bit darker, but I hate doing that, because then it's hard to erase, and then you guys aren't getting a good example of what I'm talking about. So I have a center here, and I have a center here. I'm going to go ahead and use my compass now to draw these arcs and start doing all these tangent arcs just like we learned in the other one. So first thing I'm going to set is 0.75 for this one. Oh wait, hang on, look here. I forgot this center. I've got to come back 3 on this horizontal line from the center to find that center. So here we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and set it. So here we go, 0.75 is the radius. From this center, and I'm simply just going to draw very, very light right now. I'm not looking to be dark on anything. Okay, now I'm going to set the radius for here of 1.75. Let me use the bigger compass. Come from that center also. There it is. Remember, I need to be very light, correct? Okay. Now, real quick, just so we can start making shape here, this is a tangent line, both of these are, to these two arcs. So how do I do that? Well, that's the easiest part of this drawing. Simply just line up your stuff to where it's the outside of the arcs, the top of those outside of these arcs. And now I can even draw it dark because I know that's where it's at. I'm going to go ahead and do this one. Now a lot of people make the mistake of not drawing this arc all the way across. Meaning if they arc this, they stop about here, and then that makes me want to move this tangent arc even back into this space here, and then I'm off. I've got to see this turn back of this radius in order to know the top point. See how I can still see some of my radiuses? That's because I needed to see the top point of that curvature on this tangent arc line. So I have that. Now these last two are a little bit different, okay? And we're going to resort back to our packet that I told you guys that you're going to definitely want to keep, and because you're going to use it. So we're going to erase all this so we can visually see this stuff, because we're about to write some more crap here. Alright. So, real quick, we have a tangent arc encompassing one arc and another arc. So we're going to go back to our packet here, okay, and we're going to look at our packet. It's not this page. Let me zoom out. It's not this page. It's not that page. It's not this page. Oh wait, maybe is it? Oh wait, look at that. Hey, it is. So, real quick, what am I going to do? Notice, this arc here was because I'm completely encompassing in them, right? So what do I got to do? I've got to take my tangent radius and I got to subtract it by the radiuses that it's encompassing, because it's holding them inside. So think of it as like I'm holding these smaller radiuses inside my big tangent radius. So let's go back here. This huge radius here, okay, has 0.5 of a radius, which means I got to go 0.5 minus this radius, okay? So we're going to go 5 minus the top radius. So I'm going to go 5, this radius, and I'm going to subtract it by this top radius, which is going to be 1.75. So I'm going to set my compass to 3.25 from that same center, and I'm going to arc it out here somewhere. Now we've got to do the same thing here. I'm going to go 5 minus this radius. And I'm going to set my compass to 4.25 from that center. And the reason why I choose these centers and these spots is because that's the center for this radius of this circle that the big tangent radius needs to be tangent to. So we got two radiuses we need to turn to, and then I can draw this big radius. So here we go. We're going to pull this off the side, grab our big compass, zoom out a little bit so you guys can see what's happening here. Alright, so we need to set it to 3.25. Let's stretch it to 3.25. Kendall, will you go get me a beam compass, please? Now I'm coming from that center. So I need to come from that center, and I'm just going to draw very, very light. It's very important that you're light. Now, I want to come from this center. Oh, but they're different tangent radiuses they need to come off of. So I need to go back to this, and I need to say, oh, hang on, it needs to be 4.25. So I'm going to grab it here, stretch to 4.25. And now I'm going to come from this center. Ooh, look here. I'm a little off. You see that? So I needed to set this compass way out here. So I'm going to draw this one. I'm going to set this back to 3.25. Oh, it should be underneath the drafting dots. Okay, so there's my center for my tangent radius to this arc and this arc, and I need to set it to 5. I don't think this compass can make 5. Let's find out. So I'm almost bodying them out, my stuff, but I think I can make it. Look at that, I made it. So there's 5 right there. So now I'm going to set it here. And now I'm going to draw my arcs. Now I know this to be dark because I know where it's touching. Boom. There it is. Now I have that point. Now my next point is I got to look at this arc right here. So real quick, let's look at it together. So this arc here is outside that arc and is outside this arc. So let's go ahead and look at our, remember our worksheet, the one that we're always going to resort to, okay? And we're going to look at this page, page 20, number 2, okay? So we have an arc, and the tangent arc is outside the two arcs. Take a look. We have an arc, and we have an arc, and I have a tangent arc outside those arcs. So what do I got to do? Well, simply, I've got to take the radiuses and I've got to add to my tangent radius to have the existing radiuses. Okay, so what is the tangent radius for the arc that we need to draw? Well, let's take a look at it. It's telling me that they want to set it to 1.5. So I'm simply going to go the 0.75 plus the 1.5, come up with a number from that same center and draw an arc out here. And then I'm going to take that 1.75, I'm going to take that 1.5, add them together to come have an arc out here somewhere. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's do the big one first. We're going to go 1.75, add the tangent radius is 1.5. I need to set it to 3.25. Hey, that looked pretty familiar, didn't it? Yes, it did. Okay, so now I got to do the other one. I'm going to go 1.5 plus the 0.75, and I got to come up with 2.25. So real quick, let's set this back to 3.25 for the first one, and that's the big one. Same center, right? Because I'm tangent to this arc right here. So I already have it drawn. So we're good there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go set it to 2.25. Bring it in. 2.25. And there it is. Nice and light, right? Now I'm going to go ahead and set my compass to 1.5 now because I know my tangent radius of 1.5, not 0.25. So 1.5, there it is. There's my center. I know where it's touching, so I'm going to be dark about it. Bingo bango. Look at that. Okay. Now just to make this thing look pretty, we're going to set all our radiuses now and darken up our stuff. There it is. There we go. Now, real quick, I have an inside circle that I need to draw, and that inside circle has a radius of, or a diameter of 3. Has a diameter of 3. So what I'm going to do is set it to 1.5, draw the circle. And then we're going to get to our our next one, which is another fun one. Okay, and it's going to be our hexagon. So the hexagon, we're going to resort to this page 18, number 5. Remember how we did our 30 degrees and our 90 degrees? So that for that point right there was set at 90 degrees right there. But if I need to kick back 15, what's 90 plus 15? That's 105, which means that point's at 105 right there. So I'm going to draw it across. Therefore, everything gets minus 15 degrees because I went 15 degrees. So 15 or 90 or 30 minus 15 is 15 degrees, which means that's drawn at 15 degrees. This is drawn at 15 degrees, right? And then look here, the 90 that was here minus 15 goes to 75. So those are 75. Okay, so what do I need to do? I need to set my compass to half of the diameter to draw a circle and then just scribe with those degrees to the outside of those marks. Pretty easy, right? The last one is this one. Now, because it was going this way, I subtracted. Because it's going this way and it's tipping up, it was 30 degrees. Now the angle grew. Add 15 to that. 30 plus 15 is 45. Therefore, this is drawn at 45. That's drawn at 45. So I got 2 steps to do, and we just kind of went over it. So let's talk about it, or let's do it, and we'll be done. So half of 3 is 1.5, so I need to set my compass to 1.5. Now this is a solid line, so I might as well darken it. Okay, my next step is I got to go half of 1.75 because we're going across the flats. Divided by 2, so I got to go 7/8. I know that number, but if I didn't know that number, I need to resort to my conversion chart. I need to go back to 3 decimal places. Well, look here, 3 decimal places, 0.875. Look at that, 0.875. That's 7/8. Pretty easy. As you get drawing more, you start to memorize decimal places. That way you can actually learn to draw quicker rather than going back to the conversion chart. Okay, very, very light. Remember, we're across the flats, just like that number 6 or number 5. Okay, there we are. Now, remember, this isn't 30 degrees anymore. It's 15. This isn't 90. That's 75. And this one isn't 30. We added the angle, so it's going to be 45. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and do the 45. Remember, we're tangent, meaning we're right to the outside of that sucker. Just like this. Okay, and now I've got to go 75. So I got to go 45 plus my other one. But I'm going the wrong way. Notice that? I can do this one though. Okay, let's just resort back to the picture so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. If I can find, there it is. Okay, 75 degrees. Look at the triangle. See how it works? So I got to make sure I'm out to the outside. I'm drawing very light. Remember, we aren't looking to get dark with any of this stuff yet, right? There it is. My last one's 15 degrees, which means I've just got to simply do this. Don't like it? There it is. There's my 15 degrees. Now I know the outside of these marks, so I'm going to darken this stuff. Now notice I can't go any lower, but I'm going to use the inside of this triangle because the inside and the outside have the exact same angle. Okay, there's that. Now we're going to darken our 75 degrees here. Okay, switch to my 45 because now I know it. And this is across the flats here. Okay, so I'm 15 degrees tilted. That's why I had to subtract this angle because my angle was 30 and now I had to subtract the 15 degree tilt, so it's going to be 15. This one was 90, but I need to tilt it going this way 15, so 90 minus 15 is 75. Now this one here, it was at 30, right? But as I'm tipping it up, my angle grew here, which means I got to go 15 plus 30, that's 45. Now I have it drawn. Last but not least, I got to draw a couple little tiny circles and then draw on my center lines. Okay, this diameter right here, if we look at it really close, it says the diameter is 0.62 and there's 2 holes, which means this hole and that hole are with a diameter 0.62. So I'm just going to grab my calculator. I'm going to go 0.62 divided by 2, so 0.31. Well, let's find out what 0.31 means in decimal so I can figure it in a fraction. So, real quick, here we go. Remember, 2 decimal places, 0.31. 0.31, so we're 5/16 is what we need to be. So let's grab the small compass here. and set it to 5/16. Now 5/16 is awful small, so if I didn't want to use this compass, I could simply grab my template. But this is small enough that I can actually draw this, so I feel comfortable. There's that one. There's that one. Now let's go ahead and draw our center lines in here. So remember, it's small dash, long dash, right? Small dash, long dash, small dash, long dash, small dash, long dash. Make sense? I might as well come all the way over with it because I already did on that one a little bit. There we go. Now I better do my vertical line. Okay, there it is. Last but not least, remember the whole point is to draw light, yeah? So let's zoom out. Sprinkle it on there just like so. Erase this stuff. Sweet, sweet. The little brush. And if I need to tidy up a couple more spots, I'm just going to grab this eraser. There she is. This drawing is done. Notice, and please keep in mind, that I had to draw my box first, figure my math so I could center this. That way this distance and this distance, we'll call these X, they were the same, and Y's are the same. It's very important that you're centered. Remember, you get one mess up per unit, and the last one unit or drawing 3.6 is the one you want to mess up on. Alright guys, remember, if you got questions, please ask. Anything else? Have fun.